The $1 billion defamation lawsuit against CNN could get a lot bigger. Earlier this year, I made a video outlining the details of this case. I'm going to pin it in the comments down below for those of you who haven't seen it and want more information. But as a very brief overview, this has to do with a segment that Jake Tapper ran. Now, this was during the Afghanistan withdrawal. Jake Tapper began talking about, quote, black markets, and this segment was about scam artists and scammers conning people and charging, quote, exorbitant fees to get out of Afghanistan. And specifically, they targeted, allegedly, this one gentleman named Zachary Young. This is his photo that they used. And again, the words they used were, quote, black market. They talked about exorbitant fees. Well, one of the reasons defamation cases are so hard to win is you have to prove intent. You have to prove actual malice. Well, I'm going to play you a clip from my previous video showing that Zachary Young's legal team was able to find evidence supporting that perhaps there was malice, perhaps there was ill intent coming from CNN. This is from my video earlier this year. You see, part of what makes defamation cases so difficult to win is that you actually have to prove and show malicious intent. Well, according to the official filing in Florida's 1st District Court of Appeals, Zachary Young was able to get his hands on internal communications at CNN and submit those as evidence. In those messages, CNN employees called him bag and asshole and remarked that they were going to nail this Zachary Young. Marquardt referred to him as Young and quipped, "It's your funeral, bucko." So that all ultimately led to this $1 billion defamation lawsuit against CNN. And it wasn't just that one Jake Tapper segment. Sure, he ran a segment talking about black markets, exorbitant fees, and used Zachary Young's image, but there were actually multiple segments on TV as well as online, and then obviously those internal communications, well, they didn't help CNN's case at all. Now, according to a court filing, we know that CNN attempted to get Zachary Young to agree to a settlement offer, but those settlement talks, well, they apparently fell apart. According to the court filing, the mediator files his report to the court and advises that a mediation conference was held on September 11, 2024, at which the parties and attorneys of record appeared in person. The court is further advised that the parties were unable to reach any agreement and an impasse was declared, dated this 13th day of September 2024. Fox News even confirms this in their headlines. CNN fails to settle defamation suit with Navy veteran who says Jake Tapper's segment, quote, destroyed his reputation. Now, we don't know exactly what CNN was trying to get Zachary Young to settle to, but we do know it must have been substantial, right? Because this was a $1 billion defamation suit. While the amount offered to make the lawsuit go away was not disclosed, it would have needed to be fairly substantial to negate the allure of a possible $1 billion, possibly more, between compensatory, emotional, and punitive damages. And this apparently was not a surprise to Zachary Young's legal team at all. In fact, earlier in June, Young's lawyer predicted this on the record to Newsbusters. When asked about the possibility of a settlement back in June, Young's lead counsel, Val Friedman of Friedman Norman Friedland LLP, told Newsbusters it was, quote, so far off the table. He also said there was, quote, zero chance this case gets stopped before trial, and that the goal was to quote, take CNN to task. Now, Zachary Young apparently lives in Austria, in Europe, and CNN begged him to come to Florida. This was from their court filing. Cable News Network, Inc., CNN, files this opposition to plaintiff's motion to allow Zachary Young to attend mediation remotely. And the reason he wanted to attend this remotely is because Zachary Young, from what I understand, actually suffers from an injury that he received while he was serving in the military. It pains him, physically pains his legs to sit for long periods of time. And so obviously flying from Austria to Florida, that would be very painful. Well, as it turns out, it sounds like CNN was able to force Zachary Young to come to Florida. When we look at the report, it says the parties and attorneys of record appeared in person. Again, this is just my understanding. I don't have any insider knowledge on that. But if that is the case, if they did force him to attend that hearing, that mediation hearing, I'm sure that did not help CNN's settlement case at all. Now, News has more details on this $1 billion case. Young's lead counsel, Val Friedman, was unable to say exactly what CNN offered his client during last week's confidential meeting, but he said in a statement, Mr. Young is looking forward to trial this January and looks forward to presenting his case to a jury of his peers. Now, here's where things get really interesting. Friedman has predicted the damages could amount to more than $1 billion based on Florida's laws around punitive damages and Young's legal burden to prove malice. So that could get very interesting. And then Fox News followed up announcing that because this case appears to be moving forward to trial, this could spill all of CNN's secrets to the public. According to Fox News, defamation lawsuit against CNN could expose companies' financial secrets as court seeks to expose CNN's net worth. And the reason this is interesting is because earlier in the year, CNN laid off many staffers. So I'm sure many of those staffers, many current staffers who are currently employed, well, I'm sure they're going to be interested in not only what is CNN worth, but what is Jake Tapper's salary? Because I'm sure he's being paid lots, and now he could potentially cost CNN $1 billion or more. The Washington Examiner has more details on this. Essentially, this will act as a way to double check to see if CNN was being honest with the financial documents they were turning over as part of discovery, comparing what they turned over to Young's legal team versus what they told corporate. He noted that Judge Henry signaled that punitive damages sought against CNN could go beyond the simple net worth of the network. So that is huge. Puck News, which is known in the entertainment industry, they're one of the industry standards, they're one of the industry I forget the exact term, but they're one of the papers that people in entertainment go to. Well, according to Puck, they wrote this. Accordingly, Young's attorneys will soon be receiving documents to assess CNN's net worth so they can argue before a jury just how big a penalty Young should receive. So this is all huge news. You know, it started off as a $1 billion lawsuit. This could get a lot bigger. CNN attempted to settle this. They failed to settle this. And now, you know, their financial secrets could be exposed. And what I played earlier, you know, the internal communications of them talking about Young, using such a vulgar language, clearly, apparently, you know, with malice, with ill intent. If they are able to blow the lid on CNN for such reckless journalism on this story, it makes you wonder, well, what else has CNN treated with these sort of gloves? What other stories have they treated with this sort of glove? More details from Puck. CNN has lost one bid to appeal, meaning the network may appear in court before Judge Henry, a Ron DeSantis appointee. At Thursday's meeting, the judge was unmoved by Tobin's concern about the burden on CNN, saying, I want to keep us on track for January. So this case could begin, the trial could begin January 2025. And Fox News also confirmed what I told you about Jake Tapper's salary being of primary concern. Tapper's salary will be particularly interesting to now former CNN employees who were let go during a recent round of cost-cutting headcount reductions. The network announced in July that roughly 100 staffers would be let go. Radar Online has even more information, and this actually gets even crazier because CNN attempted to cite Sharia law. In other words, they were siding with the terrorists in an attempt to defend themselves. Quote, CNN sides with Taliban in Jake Tapper defamation battle. Embattled News Network claims a military vet who saved 20 women's lives broke Sharia law, demands lawsuit be tossed. So, again, let's go back to the very beginning. CNN, in their segment, claimed Afghans trying to flee Taliban face, quote, black markets, quote, exorbitant fees. Well, according to the Taliban, and by the way, the U.S. government, not only does the U.S. government not acknowledge, not recognize the Taliban as a legitimate government, the U.S. government also does not acknowledge Sharia law. We don't practice Sharia law in the United States. Well, CNN was trying to argue that the Taliban, in other words, Sharia law, made it illegal for women to leave Afghanistan. According to Radar Online, a spokesperson for CNN defended its latest legal maneuver filed at the 11th hour, quote, acknowledging the state of local law is a necessary part of the legal analysis. And here's where things get really interesting. Young saved at least 20 women's lives and charged $14,500 apiece for their evacuation for his clients, which were exclusively corporations. Some of his clients include Bloomberg. They include Audible. So these weren't even, just your everyday citizens. These were corporate entities buying his services to evacuate their assets, their human assets on the ground. So that right there is critical information that wasn't apparent in the CNN segment. You can pause this if you want to read this, but essentially this is CNN trying to defend itself. And it's just, really twisted logic. Well, the Taliban says women can't leave the country, and therefore Zachary Young was operating in a black market under Taliban rule in Sharia law. Well, like I said, the U.S. government and U.S. courts don't acknowledge, Sharia law, don't acknowledge the Taliban. So that is a very lame argument. Obviously, it clearly didn't work out for CNN very well, but it really opens your eyes to, man, they must be desperate for this thing. And really, you're going to try to cite the Taliban? You're going to try to side with the terrorists? Based on appearances, to argue your case? It's not a very good look for CNN. Well, Zachary Young's lawyer did rebut this. He wrote in a rebuttal, through 2 years of litigation and 17 depositions across all ranks of CNN, from journalists to executives, Sharia was never mentioned, not once. The filing continued. Faced with a clear record of misconduct, punitive damages, and a January trial, CNN's response is a masterclass in absurdity and desperation. I 100% agree with that. As always, all of this is just my commentary and my analysis, and I would love to know your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think about CNN's attempt to defend itself by citing Sharia law and citing the Taliban? Like, really? You're that desperate that you're going to appear to side with the terrorists to defend yourselves in court? I mean, what does that say about the network? What does that say about your journalism? Ugh. Yikes. If you haven't already, please be sure to give me a thumbs up. I know it's a simple thing to ask, but it really does help me in the algorithm to reach more viewers like you. Be sure to smash that subscribe button and to check out one of these videos.